Okay, this is the first part of a video about designing a new bag for myself as a commuter briefcase shoulder bag combo. If you've been following for a while, you know that I've made a number of bags for myself over the years, and I'm never entirely satisfied with what I've made, and so it's time to try again. One of these days, I'll get it all the way right. So the basic gist of the bag that I'm thinking of. Actually, I've done some preliminary sketches here. Looks like this. I've got, roughly speaking, and nothing is settled in stone here, obviously. I've got a width of 14 inches, a height of 10 inches, and a depth nominally of about 5. I have a new work laptop that I need to be able to carry with me on the train every day, with some notebooks and some pens and pencils and just sort of everyday stuff that needs to go back and forth. And while I have a backpack that does this job really nicely, and I have a couple other smaller bags that are good on the off days, I need something that's, it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more robust. Loads of people make these. You could just go buy one. That would be the smarter, faster, maybe even less expensive option for this, but I've never been one to do things the easy way. So what I'm sort of thinking here is roughly those dimensions. Obviously, radius on the corners, sharp, pointy corners. If you're new to making bags, sharp, pointy corners are relatively easy to execute, but those corners attract wear. They rub on sort of everything, and that's where all of your heavy wear will be. If you radius the thing, then you'll actually end up with a less wear-prone area of the bag, and it will work out better for you. And it's not that much harder to do, if I'm honest. So basic construction on a bag like this for me, and I am by no means an expert, so feel free if you've done this before to chime in and give me advice and whatever. But the way I usually build these is with two panels of the sort of this size here. One would be your back panel, one would be your front panel. And then in the case of this, I would normally, historically, I would make the zipper wrap around each end across the top, and then all the way up, all the way across, and all the way down. And then the bag would completely clamshell open. But I don't really want that in this case, because there's not a lot of times when having a bag this big flop all the way open is an advantage. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to run the zipper halfway down each side, across the top, and then halfway down the other side. And that gives me two things. One, it gives me the ability to pull the bulk of the top of the bag open to sort of really get down inside there to if I need to extract something. And the other half of that is that because I can run a solid panel halfway down this side here, under the bottom, and then halfway back up the other side here, I get only 2 seams. Right? I don't have 4 seams. I only have 2 seams. Down the bottom, and that should help with waterproofness. That should help with wrapping the padding around, and it means I can double utilize this end space here, this end piece here, to put. My plan currently calls for a mesh cinchable or elasticized pocket here that I can drop a small folded umbrella in. These are the practicalities of commuter life, people. So that's what I'm thinking right now. It will probably be an AquaGuard zipper that goes up the middle here. And construction-wise, just basically from a shell, really you're talking about 1 piece of fabric here, 2, 3 for the front and back, 4, 5. And that's it. That's the whole shell of this bag. It's not super complicated. You cut out 2 of them, you cut out 1 of them, and you cut out these 2 bits here, which is really just probably a duplicate of this piece, but split. It's not quite, I realize, but so very, very, very easy on the construction front. Like most bags of this sort, you build them inside out, and then when you're done with all that construction, you flip them around, and all the seams are hidden, and all your sins can be buried on the inside. Other things I'm currently working on. I know it's going to have carry handles across the top here, so that I can grip the thing like a briefcase. But I also want to be able to run a shoulder strap so I can sling the thing crossbody. That way, if I'm riding a bike with it, or if I'm carrying it a long way, That will work out nicely. Also, cross straps. I can wear cross straps with a suit jacket or a sports coat, whereas I personally don't wear backpacks that way. It just doesn't work for me. But as is typical for me, I need to complicate things a little bit. Like right now, my preliminary sketch here has a bit of webbing attached flat onto this end face with a D-ring on top of it, and you clip your buckle to that to get your cross strap. That's not going to work for me. Doing that would put all of the force of this thing on this piece of fabric here, and I'm going to Xbox stitch the thing if I did it that way, but it's going to pull and tug and deform the shape of the bag and all the rest. So I think what I'm going to do instead is bury it into this seam here. Whether it's a D-ring or another attachment point, I haven't figured out hardware, obviously. We're still at the early stages of this. I'm going to bury that into the seam. The same way I'm going to bury these guys into this seam here and this seam here. I haven't entirely figured out what to make those with. My gut is saying 2-inch webbing, and then you could stitch 2-inch webbing here and stitch 2-inch webbing here, and then you take the middle of the webbing. Actually, you do this first. Fold it in half, stitch that, and now you've got a 1-inch wide doubled section of webbing. That might be a bit wide and a bit heavy duty. I might step that down to 1 3/4 or 1.5 inches or something. Regardless, those will go into these seams. I'm now thinking the carry straps for the shoulder strap will go into these side seams here and here, sort of right at the top. That gets them off this plane. I think I'm going to skip that part. So that's easy. This bit of complexity, the pocket here for the umbrella, that is not brutal either. I've never done a pocket like that, but I've got some ideas. Again, it's into this seam and into this seam. I think I can pre-stitch it on this bottom panel here, so it's already on there by the time the entire bag goes together. That's probably the smart way to do that. The only real question there is what type of mesh, if any, to use, what type of cinch or elastic to use or combination, and sort of what that hardware combo is. That's relatively easy. The part that I've never really done before, and that I'm trying to figure out the order of operations on and the construction on, is this panel here, because I would like to do some volume pockets on the outside here for easy access stuff. Headphones, train ticket, car keys, stuff that I want to be able to get to easily, quickly, without going into the body of the bag. And I'd like to do a pair, I think, of flapped button pockets here. So this would be an overhanging flap, probably Velcro on the back side here. I'm thinking, roughly speaking, to get some volume into these pockets, of doing pleats, which I've never done before. I experimented with them a little teeny bit yesterday. I think they're probably doable. I don't entirely know how to finish the top of the thing. That is to say, the top of this panel here underneath this flap. But I'm sure I could figure that out. Getting these to adhere to this panel. Normally I would start with this panel as a solid sheet, and then I would put these pockets on top of it. I would add this guy and the flaps, and then that whole thing goes into the bag, right? But I'm thinking instead with this, it might be better to build this like composite style, where this top half of this panel is one piece, and then this bottom half that is the pockets is a second piece, and there's a seam here. It'll be buried because that's where these flaps will come out of. But I haven't entirely decided which would ease the construction more. If I do a flat panel with these on top of it, or if I do 2 separate or 3 separate panels that then get put together to form this panel, and then that goes into the bag. I don't entirely know yet. I haven't delved into, I know inside against this back panel will be padded, and then this side wraparound bottom panel here and across the bottom here, that will be padded as well. A, to give the bag a little bit of structure, and B, because there will be a laptop in it from time to time. I will therefore also, against this panel on the inside, I sort of roughly sketched it here, there will need to be some sort of pocket to slip a laptop into. And then I'm actually thinking of adding another sort of layered pocket on top of that here, and that would have space for notebooks to go into. I usually carry at least one or two. And it would be good to have some dedicated space for the larger ones there. And then I think against the front panel, against the inside of this panel, I think that's where I'm going to put like sort of like your pen organizer and pocket notebook and odds and ends organizer administration style panel here. And that would still give you some space down in here to drop in, you know, your sandwich or your bag of snacks or like lunch or like whatever you've got sort of kicking around that's going to go in there. So that's the basic construction. Basic design. Again, a lot of details to be worked out, a lot of planning. I could just as easily go buy one of these from Topo Designs, or any of like, or LL Bean makes one, or I'm sure Patagonia makes one, or like, you know, any other maker does these. But I get a little bit picky. The other thing I want to sort of experiment on this. Normally, I would build a bag like this out of this. This is 500 denier coated Cordura, and it is it's lovely stuff. It's got a waterproof membrane on the back of it, and it's pretty tough on the outside of it. But I'm thinking for this, I'm always looking to minimize the weight of the bag. Like, I got to carry enough stuff in it anyway. Laptop, notebook, lunch, water, you know, keys, like all that stuff, and that stuff all adds up. And if you're lugging something around all day, that weight can really sort of weigh on you. I don't like the idea of having a lot of stuff with me all the time. It just it encourages pack ratness in your bag, and I don't go for it. Anyway, this stuff is a lot lighter than 1000 denier Cordura, which is what a lot of people build this stuff out of. Or I think there's a 1620 denier Cordura that's used for luggage, even heavier duty, coarser stuff. I am not dragging this thing behind a car. I don't abuse my work bags all that heavily. If this was, you know, something I was going to go do a Go Ruck challenge with, then yeah, maybe. But this is going on the train with me. It sits in the car, it goes to the train, it comes on the train, it goes to work, and reverse every day. So I don't need that super heavy duty fabric. So what I'm thinking about, and normally I would line it with something like this. This is, I think, 420 denier uncoated nylon. So this is relatively tough stuff as well. You can see it's fairly transparent, and it makes a lovely liner material. I like to line my bags with fairly bright colors like this, because it makes the inside of the bag much more visible. So if you're looking for something, the inside of your bag is all black, like the outside is likely to be, and you have a black thing in the bottom of that bag, good luck finding that at the bottom of a dark bag. You know what I mean? So lining the inside with something bright really does help with usability of the thing. So instead of this, I'm thinking of trying to track down some X-Packs fabric. There are some lighter weight, reinforced, more modern, this is a fairly old fabric style, fabrics that are getting used to build this stuff. And some people are building people that are building bags out of them are often not lining them as a result, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if that will be possible with this, given the sort of construction that I want to do. I have foam I need to capture in the back here. I have pockets, I have organizers, I have all these sort of like bits and pieces. So I don't know that this bag is a particularly good candidate for that. But I really do want to get some of that fabric in so I can at least play with it and figure out if it will work. If I can make this bag lighter when it's empty, that's a nice thing. It's something I always sort of strive for with my stuff, is not to overbuild and not to over complicate the bags, because the heavier the bag is when it's empty, the heavier the bag is going to be when you've got your gear in it. Stands to reason. Anyway, this is a part 1 sketch, and I'm going to give it a good think. I'm going to poke around with material and testing some stuff and figuring out this pleated thing and how I'm going to build this panel and all that sort of business. I'll rattle it around in my head, and then I'll do another round, and we'll talk about, you know, maybe building a prototype, or sourcing materials, or construction, or wherever stage I'm at. This will probably be a multi-part series until I get this thing done, which could take a while. But anyway, thanks for watching.